Hisuian Snow is a brand new web series that aims to bring the Hisui region, which doesn't have an animated counterpart yet, to life. For those not aware, the Hisui region is the Sinnoh region in the past, so unlike in the modern day, people in Pokemon don't really live together. This series is pretty simple. There are two main characters here really, three I guess if you count the Pokemon: Alec, his father, and a Zoroark. In the first episode, we see Alec heading to Jubilife Village where his father is. However, when he's told by one of the people in the ship that a violent Pokemon has appeared in the Alabaster Forest, he reminisces about his past. There was a little bit of confusion here. The first time I watched this, I thought that the young man who was heading to Jubilife Village and the kid that we were seeing the story of were different people. No, turns out they're the same. The first episode of the story is basically how he came across a shiny Hisuian Zorua in the forest when his father told him not to go there. And it ends with him hurling down a cliff with that Zorua when they're just playing around with each other. The thing I noticed about this first episode is that there's some significant dialogue changes between the Japanese and English versions of this episode, and I'm not sure why. It's nothing major, but for small things, they were changed for seemingly no reason. For example, in the Japanese version, we learn that the kid's name is Akio, or Alec in the dub, but we don't see that until episode 2 in the English version. Also, the explanation of Hisuian Zoroark also changed. Again, not significantly, but still. The English dub says something to the effect of, the Pokemon lost everything and became something else, when talking about how the villagers went after the Pokemon. And while that's not a bad translation or anything by any stretch, the Japanese version explicitly talks about the fact that Hisuian Zoroark died and was reborn after it was mistreated by humans. It makes the ghost type a serious part of its story, and while the dub version keeps a similar premise, they really toned down the reference to death and being reborn. Again, I'm not sure why. So after the kid Alec falls off the cliff at the end of episode 1, episode 2 begins with him seeing visions of people with fire persecuting Zoroark, like his father had explained to him. And one of the people in the mob in his vision is his father. However, when he wakes up, he sees that he has fallen quite a distance from the cliff, and on top of that, he hurt himself. He begins crying before seeing Hisuian Zoroark and pulling himself together. He tries to help out the Hisuian Zorua climb up the cliff. By him trying to help out Zorua, it seems like they created some sort of bond, as Zorua later returns with a medicinal leek and shows Alec how to use it, healing the wound in his leg, allowing him to climb back up the cliff. Once he returns, he hears his father calling him. However, before he goes to him, he hesitates a bit when he sees his father with his torch. A nice little moment of reflection before going towards them with the Zorua behind him. However, his father gets very defensive because, like he explained to him in the first episode, humans thought Zorua were dangerous Pokemon, and we see other Zoroark come from the forest. Now, we don't know if it's actually Zoroark or it's their illusion. We get this intense scene here before all of the Zorua line, including the shiny one that was following Alec, leave Alec wondering. And that's where the flashback ends and episode 2 ends, as Alec is excited to be back in Jubilife Village. And once they're in episode 3, we see that his father and him are still very different. Alec wants to be a doctor, he wants to help Pokemon. Most of the people in the village, however, do not. Similar to the Legends Arceus game, however, Silene seems to be the one main advocate for the main person. In this case, it would be Alec. After he saves a Rufflet that was hurt coming out of a space-time distortion, he wants to try to figure out what's going on there and why all the Pokemon are coming out hurt. And while everyone else says no, the Security Corps, which is Silene's team, says they also want to find out. They go inside the rift and they see injured Snover, and Alec is able to actually convince the Abomasnow that are protecting the Snover to help him treat the injured Snover. What's causing this injury, however? Alpha Garchomp. And here's another moment where the animation does the storytelling. The way Alpha Garchomp is shown here with the deep reds for its eyes, the dark backgrounds in the rifts, everything related to it makes it feel like an insanely dangerous Pokemon. The central idea of the story here is the same as the game. It's a relationship between people and Pokemon, how it's changed from the past. However, in this case, Alec is saved from the Alpha Garchomp by shiny Hisuian Zoroark, presumably the same one that he had bonded with as a child, the one who inspired him to be a doctor. Afterwards, they are able to take the Snover and the Munchlax to the village and treat them, and even though Alec's father doesn't get it, he now does approve of his son's choice to be a doctor. It also seems like it's slowly bringing the people in the village closer together to Pokemon, as we see them kind of just having fun with Pokemon, allowing them to see Pokemon in a new light. Alec's father then makes him a dope shiny Hisuian Zoroark mask, which by the way you can still get in the game until later this year, and once he leaves, he's in the boat and he howls. I wasn't sure what that was about. The story here is interesting due to a few things, but one of the reasons, and it'll probably be the title of this video, is just how they use the medium of animation to tell the story, rather than a lot of dialogue, at least in the first 2 episodes. In the first episode, we get some backstory through dialogue, but most of that is just aided with amazing visuals. And then there are a few moments where there just isn't a lot of talking, just showing the emotions of the eyes. That's especially true in the second episode. In the second episode, there are long droughts of time where there isn't a lot of talking going on. When Alec is hurt and tears are welling up in his face, we don't get dialogue in that moment. We get a long bit where we get to see Alec's face, we get to see the shiny Zoro's face, and we're just left with that visual of them looking at each other. And that's all you really need to know, is you can tell that they both know how each other are feeling. And while episode 3 has much more dialogue than the first 2 episodes, the animation is also a major part of how they tell the story. Everything from seeing how the injured Pokemon falls, to especially the riffs and how everything in there is animated. The battle between the Abomasnow and the Garchomp that we see seems so much more primal and raw. There aren't a lot of beams being thrown around. There are, but there's just a lot of slugging going on. And for Alpha Garchomp, that combined with this almost gritty animation style really makes you feel the intensity and power of Alpha Pokemon as wild, powerful creatures that can't be trusted. The whole thing's really directed well, and you can tell a lot of thought went into the series, including the titles. I didn't even talk about this, but even the character designs look fantastic. I love the way Silene looks compared to her game counterpart. She looks much more natural, and same with the extra images that we get in the credit of the Japanese version. Again, I have no idea why they removed this from the English version, but whatever. This 3-part series, while short, really does a good job of telling stories through a visual medium. Hisuian Snow is a fantastically animated representation of Legends Arceus, and I only wish we got more stories like it and Twilight Wings. If you haven't already, go ahead and check it out. It's well worth it. If you like this video, check out my other ones similar to this one in the end card. Other than that, be sure to like, share, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter @PdGaming, and that is it. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.